All right, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Doing Business webinar with Point32Health. My name is Amber Haskell and I'm the Senior Director of Economic Inclusion with the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and I have the pleasure of overseeing our Pacesetters network. While much of our attention focuses on the development of supplier diversity best practices within our network of 34 corporate buyers, Pacesetters also aims to provide the best possible insights for businesses of color to help them engage and partner with corporate buyers like Point32Health. Our Doing Business series is a key element, and we're grateful to all of our corporate buyers for their participation. We're thankful to our program funder, the Eastern Bank Foundation, for their continued commitment and support of this work, and of course to Point32Health procurement team for sharing their insights with the MBE and diverse business community. Before I introduce today's speakers, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping notes. First, this session is being recorded and will be shared on the Chamber's YouTube page shortly after the presentation. For those of us joining live, please submit your questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A feature found at the bottom of your screen, and please make sure to send to all panelists. You can also put your question in the chat box or send it to economicinclusion@bostonchamber.com. I will be at the end to put as many questions as possible to the team. Now I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. First, we have Jonathan Chu, Procurement Analyst at Point32Health. In his role, John is responsible for reporting procurement data around spend and savings, as well as being a subject matter expert on various procurement software, spend contracting, vendor management, and diversity data. Prior to joining Point32Health in 2022, John worked at BJ's Wholesale Club, supporting their procurement analytics. John has a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from Western New England University. Welcome, John.
Hi, everyone.
Next, we have Brandon Huggins, Senior Specialist on the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility team at Point32Health. In his role, Brandon leads efforts to keep Point32Health a company of choice for diverse suppliers, providers, members, and community partners. He has over 15 years of professional experience, which include roles in higher education, organizational learning and development, and diversity and inclusion. Prior to working at Point32Health, he worked at Boston College developing diversity education and mentorship programs from students from underrepresented and low-income backgrounds. Brandon received his bachelor's degree in communications from Worcester State University and his master's degree in human development and counseling from Northeastern University. Welcome, Brandon.
Hi, everybody. Great to be with you today.
And lastly, we will have Bill Freeman, Director of Procurement for Point32Health. Bill has over 15 years of procurement experience and has worked with companies like Monster Worldwide, Inc. and State Street to support their strategic sourcing and IT. Bill has a bachelor's degree from the University of Maine in kinesiology and a master's degree from Boston College. And with that, I will pass the presentation over to John.
Excellent. Thank you, Amber. And once again, hi, everyone. My name is John Chu. I'm the procurement analyst over here at Point32Health. Been here about 2 years now, and I'm really excited to be able to do this presentation for you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion from a procurement perspective is actually one of the first things I was given while I was at Point32Health to kind of really dive into that data. So it's really nice to come full circle and be able to present to you as well. So let me go ahead and pull the presentation up for you. So once again, Point32 doing business with us. Here we are at Point32 at a glance. We are a nonprofit health and well-being company. Cover a broad range of health plans and tools to help people navigate the healthcare landscape easily. We're headquartered in Canton, Massachusetts, but we do serve members in all 5 of the New England states. A provider of commercial, Medicare, Medicaid insurance plans to over 2 million members. 1.6 million of those are part of either our Tufts Health Plan or Harvard Program Healthcare, which are actually the original predecessors of Point32Health. Harvard Pilgrim was originally founded in 1969 as Harvard Community Health Plan, and Tufts Health Plan was originally founded in 1979. So after 50 and 40 years of being their own companies respectively, come 2019, was actually kind of funny, it was a round number, both companies agreed to a merger. By 2021, Point32Health was established, and Kane Hayes was appointed president and CEO of a newly merged company. We've since grown past the merger of Tufts and Harvard Pilgrim. So now our family of companies now includes the likes of Care Partners of Connecticut, which offers Medicare Advantage plans to the state of Connecticut. We have a collaboration with the Harvard Medical School through the Harvard Pilgrim Institute, which focuses on innovative teaching and research to address healthcare issues. Health Plans Inc., which is one of the largest third-party administrators of self-funded plans in New England. They deliver highly customized solutions to employers across the country. And it's, other likes of Integra Partners, who make in-home care accessible to local communities while improving health outcomes and costs. Regionally, we have 84,000 plus vendors that are in network. That's from, I believe, doctors, I believe, along with 154 hospitals. And nationally, we have a network of 1.5 million doctors and clinicians and 4,500 hospitals through an arrangement with United Healthcare. Our purpose is to guide and empower healthier lives for everyone, and we have 4 core principles that help guide this purpose. First being that we embrace learning, because continuous learning produces continuous impact. We own outcomes, as real results come from real commitment. We believe in growing together, because when people thrive, our organization thrives. And lastly, we build community, because serving each other helps us to better help serve others. Point32 also puts a big emphasis on community service through both time given and donations. Just this past year, we gave $15 million in contributions through various channels such as grants, donations, volunteer time, matching gifts, sponsorships. Nearly half of all of our employees either donated or volunteered their time this year to help serve the community. Specifically, through our volunteer week, that's our big week in June, where most of us, take the day off. We're given a 24 hours of volunteer time here at Point32Health. I did some volunteering this year for Volunteer Week. As you can see, I'm kind of in a bit of a not fully furnished office. I just moved to Chelsea actually today. And part of my volunteering was actually going to the Chelsea Boys and Girls Club and remulching a lot of their landscaping, cleaning up, and just making it a better place for Boys and Girls Club kids. Learned a lot about how they service the community. And it's now funny that's kind of come full circle that, 2 months later, I'm now in the community. So it feels good. And it was a nice little thing that we do. But from there, I do want to pass it over to Brendan Huggin, our Senior Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Specialist. He leads a lot of the initiatives that advance economic inclusion for Point32. Take it away, Brendan.
Great. Thank you so much, John. So hello, everybody. Again, my name is Brandon Huggin. I am on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Accessibility team at Point32Health. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I am a white-presenting male with a beard. I have hazel eyes, brownish hair. I'm wearing a black polo. I also have non-apparent disabilities. And some of you might be wondering a little bit about why I give that introduction. Part of what we do on the DEIA team at our organization is to provide an inclusive introduction for those who may have visual impairments, disabilities. We also provide the inclusive pronouns because we really want folks to feel like they can embrace their full selves. And we do this because I have a mentor that used to use the expression, you should keep your kitchen clean before you invite people into your living room. So one of the things that we work to do is make sure that our internal practices around diversity and inclusion are really cutting edge, up to date. They represent the most inclusive practices. And we're supporting our employees, and we like to extend all of that work into the community. So even though I'm newer to the team, I've been in the organization for about 2 years. So I can speak to the fact that this is an organization that really values what we are talking about in the areas of diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. And that extends to our work around health equity specifically. Not only do we want employees to feel like they've made the right choice by starting in our organization, we want our suppliers and we want our members to feel like they're making the right choice in utilizing our services and organization as well. So I'm going to give you a little background and try to just paint the picture and give some color to what you see on the slide there. We are proud to be reporting our information and try to execute some transparency in what we are sharing with the community. Part of where you might see some difference in how things move and where metrics start to change is when organizations take an internal look at what practices they're utilizing, take a look at demographics, really do a deep dive into their data and see where they're making a difference. So part of what we have decided to do over time is to take a look at those metrics. You can see there's a URL on that slide that will bring you to a version out of our economic impact report, which features some information about our economic inclusion initiatives, which I'll get into in a little bit. But we're also happy to feature that we have been accredited by the NCQA, which takes a emphasis and a look at our health equity and how we're impacting the community, as well as the other organizations that you see there. We're happy to be among some of the top leaders in the nation in terms of how we've been able to advance our disability index, how we can support our LGBTQ employees and members, along with how we've been involved with the community. John had mentioned that we have a volunteer data organization where we get into the community and we support organizations that are doing work within the New England area and beyond. So we're happy to receive all of that recognition to make sure that we're connecting with folks around our region. And as we continue to extend our footprint, we will do more of that and hope to see more of you along the way. So just to give you a quick example of what that means when we talk about health equity and how we get involved with the community. As an example, we provide more telehealth programs. So folks, if they can't make it to specific provider's office, like let's say if they're in rural Maine, we will connect and offer more telehealth programs or work to subsidize care so folks can connect with providers via telehealth. We might provide more mobile health clinics in areas so folks have more access to get to care that they need, to get recommendation support, or specific care and advice from providers who are competent and really understand where they're going, and to get people the care that they need, because we really believe in the health equity and making sure that everyone gets the care that they need. So these are just some examples of some of the work that we tend to do and the values that we tend to live. John had mentioned that we have organizational values that we've worked to establish over the past few years. These came after we created a foundation within our organization to support the work that we're doing around health equity. So again, we're very proud to feature some of these areas. You mentioned, we also, on this slide, we reference our colleague resource groups as a way to connect our employees to different areas of affinity, social identity, and how they can support and connect with one another. So again, we really believe in this work, and that brings me to just a quick discussion about how we really want to support economic inclusion within the community. So because we believe this information internally, kind of going back to the kitchen reference, we want to invite all of you into our living room and to connect with us. One of the things I want to highlight is the fact that we have increased our community spend. That means like the business that we do with our community partners, folks that have diverse incomes and backgrounds. We really like to work with them. And we went from our 4% spend to 11% in just this past year, when our commitment was to extend that to 6%. So we're happy to report that we have overextended our reach, and we are now happy to be now on track for 6% spend every year. So we really want to be working towards that end to make sure that we're connecting with more businesses in the area. One of the things I also want to mention is that we have an economic inclusion summit that's coming up in October, and we want to invite anyone who wants to do business with us or to learn how to do business with us to join us either in person or virtually, and we can tell you more about that. So we're committed to doing more work in the community and to connecting more with folks who are interested in serving as suppliers. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John to share a little bit more about that work that we're doing and how we continue to extend those efforts.
Thought I clicked on mute, but thanks, Brandon. As he said, we do want to talk a little bit about our economic impact. There we go, our economic impact. More specifically, Brandon did touch on the 11.3% spend of diverse vendors that I will get to as well. But Point32 values our connections and collaborations with our suppliers. There are partners in developing innovative products and services that will help directly serve the members and the communities that they live and work in. Our economic inclusions and supplier diversity strategy was launched a little more than 7 years ago at this point, and it continues to kind of guide us on looking to increase the percentage of our diverse supplier spend forward by 2025. Like as Brandon said, with a specific year-over-year target of a 6% increase on spend. We're committed to working with diverse suppliers to help support economic growth opportunities in these areas, and we strive to work with all suppliers who align with our company values. In 2023, we had $48 million in diversity spend, which accounted for 11.3% of our addressable spend, which nearly doubled our 2022 diverse spend number. And halfway through 2024, we've already surpassed our 2022 number. So, feel positive, feel good, which is really nice to see. It's nice to see the efforts that are being done during the company kind of show fruit, which is really nice, and seeing the connections we can make. On this slide specifically, we've left a link in the presentation as well that you can click on that will allow any interested vendors to kind of get connected with us. I understand. I think Amber and Kaija will give us a little sheet at the end, and we'll make sure to include that link with it. We're interested in hearing from any and all vendors that align with our company values. If you are a diverse business, I did leave a little screenshot. There's a question specifically asking that. So if you want to be identified as a diverse business, make sure you hit that radio button yes, so we can see that and we can contact as needed for any kind of sourcing, anything like that. And to kind of get into some of the numbers, I wanted to show the impact of our direct spend from last year. You'll notice that the number is higher than what was said a little while ago. And that's because vendors who kind of fall under multiple buckets, could be like a small MBE, small WB, this value is double counted. And also, we don't in our diversity data include spend for exclusively small businesses, but it is counted here. So you can see for minority-owned businesses, we had about 41.8 million direct spend, followed by women-owned with 40, small businesses at 52, disadvantages business 3.5, LGBT 1.5 million, veteran-owned 73,000, disability-owned businesses 5,000, about 6, and then service-disabled veterans was 3.9. You'll notice also that there is direct spend, direct jobs, direct incomes. What we mean by direct jobs is, which actually we can go on to that in next. So it's also on the next slide. So why don't we move to the breakdown by state, where we can talk more about that as well. So here's a breakdown of our diverse spend in the New England states. So as you can see, we do have a lot of our spend concentrated in Massachusetts already, where we had 14.6 million in small and diverse direct spend. So here's where I'll kind of point out the distinction of small and diverse direct spend versus total output, total jobs, total income. Direct spend is the spend from Point32Health that immediately impacts small and diverse businesses. Total output kind of includes the indirect spend, which is the spend that these small and diverse suppliers use to support their work with Point32 through their purchase of goods and services. That kind of creates a ripple effect throughout the economy where we're spending, they're spending, and just keeps going down the line. Lastly, the total jobs column is the expected jobs created by doing business with these small and diverse businesses, and the estimated incomes that are driven through our collaborations and partnerships. Outside of the direct spend, a lot of this is derived from our third-party supplier IO that we work with heavily to kind of help us kind of find those numbers. So that's where we get those numbers. And I think that would be the states, and then now we move on to kind of doing business with us. So when it comes to doing business with us, I'm specifically, the procurement analyst for the three main categories of enterprise-wide. So anything like Point32 as a business would need, IT connectivity, and our operations. There are other analysts like me that cover more of the provider side in other areas. These are the three that I support. So, the first of the enterprise-wide services, those are your usuals, your HR, your marketing, your real estate. You can like things like real estate, you're typically looking for construction services, waste management, janitorial services, landscaping, snow removal. An RFP in this space usually tends to take 4 to 6 months, and you'll likely see like a 3 to 5 year contract cycle. For marketing, we're looking at things like TV ads and billboards, travel and events. These would be for like corporate retreats, board meetings, 1 to 2 day events. You could be coordinating overnight stays, cocktail hours. Usually these are smaller term lengths for contracts. You start when the agreement's signed and you'll end when the event ends. Our second is the IT connectivity space, which covers a wide range of technology, softwares, your network security, IT hardware, data storage and management. This would be where my colleague Bill Freeman would step in, but I believe he was running late. I'm not sure when he's around at the moment. He's the director of IT, so you definitely want to hear it from the source. And then our third category is operations, which covers the areas of business such as your call centers, billing, enrollment, clinical innovations. Something they frequently see is clinical innovation suppliers usually get started out on pilot programs, where it's a collaboration where we try to determine the ROI and if the relationship is worth pursuing for both parties. So that's what you typically see a lot for on the operations side right now. But in terms of what to expect when working with Point32, we're here to support strong, long-lasting partnerships. We do have a vigorous vetting process that may entail assessments and thorough contract negotiations. Being such a regulatory industry, you'll find we have, things for corporate continuity, compliance, security, privacy, and you may find yourselves going through multiple rounds of assessments to ensure you're vetted properly, so we can either report to things at a federal level or just for our own internal needs for either meeting a deadline or anything like that. Like this is something that's going to come up, especially if you're in more of the clinical side, the more IT, PHI, PI. That's something you're going to see a lot of. And actually, this is great timing. My colleague Bill Freeman has actually just hopped on. Bill, thanks for joining us. I know you love to talk about what to expect. When working with the procurement department. So I'd love to throw it over to you, and if you would like to kind of go over this. And
yeah, John, you're doing an outstanding job. Thank you, and I apologize for my tardiness. So Point32Health, when we enter into a relationship, establish a relationship with a vendor, we want to make it last. We want to make it mutually beneficial for everybody involved, not just for us, but our members, but then also for our vendors that we're working with. So right out of the gates, we want to make sure that we're doing all the necessary work on both sides. You guys are asking the right questions for us and understanding who we are as a company, where our passions lay, what our mission is, what our overall objectives are, and as well as we want to know what you as an organization bring to the table. That's why early on in the game, we want to understand what it is that you bring to us. What do you offer? That way we can understand where you can fit in, where you could potentially displace, where you could be a net new addition to something that we've never considered. Once we understand all that, then there'll be potential RFXs involved. Now, as a diversity vendor, we certainly have the opportunity to adjust that if and when necessary. Certainly, we have policies in place that ensure inclusion of diverse vendors, but there's also some opportunities on our end because it is such a strong requirement for involvement. It's such a passion of ours that there's an opportunity to adjust those policies. And then once we understand where you can fit in, where there's opportunities, we've identified an opportunity, we have to make sure that there's a proper assessment in place, depending on what level of information and or access you'll have to data, to include sensitive information such as PII, PHI, and confidential information. So that's not involved, as with most vendors that you may be working with, privacy, security, compliance, and of course, legal. Speaking of legal, hey, you've made it this far. We've got to get into the negotiations and agreements. So then we're down work with our legal teams. We're down work through the negotiations. Once again, focusing on mutually beneficial negotiations and outcomes. We want to work with you as bad as you want to work with us. So we want to make sure that it's not just about the bottom dollar, but it's about that long-term relationship, highlighting that long-lasting relationship that I highlighted at the top. We finally put ink on the paper. Well, hey, welcome to Point32 Health. That's great. You're in the door. We may have deployed the new solution. We may be receiving goods from you, but we need to make sure that that is a long-standing relationship. So we're not continue to understand what it is that you're delivering to other customers, and you need to understand what we are looking to continue to do. We continue to challenge each other and raise the bar going forward. We don't understand that through QBRs, through annual reviews, planning sessions, road mapping. You need to know about us, and we need to know about you. And in order to ensure a long-standing and long-lasting relationship. So that's it in a nutshell. Well, I'm the director of IT procurement. I speak for Point32 Health procurement as a whole, my peers in the non-IT space as well. Diversity is huge, not only from our employee perspective, but for who we work with and who we work with in the community. So thank you. I appreciate your involvement in this very valuable forum and looking forward to working with you going forward. Back to you, John.
Bill, always a great closer. Great timing. It was perfect to come in and really bring that home. I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, at this point, we'd like to open up to questions. Amber, if we are ready for that.
We are. I will start with a few that have come in through the Q&A box. And just a reminder, if you have a question to any of our presenters, please feel free to put them in that Q&A function that's at the bottom of your screen. The first question is, you all showed a slide with the different categories, John, and you spoke to this. One person would like to know, are there other procurement categories other than what was shown on that slide? For example, promotional items, furniture, or interiors?
Yes, yeah. So the three big ones, IT connectivity, enterprise-wide, and operations, are like the main top three categories, and then underneath are our subcategories. I hit on a lot of the main big ones, such as the ones that were listed, but there are other categories. I believe in marketing, like there is a promotional subcategory as well that goes underneath that. So for things like that, like there are other areas that may not.
Yeah, let me just step in there for a second, John. Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Marketing would definitely be the umbrella that promotional goods would fall under. And then as far as furniture, by all means, we've got desks, we've got furniture throughout the office, and that would fall under real estate. So by all means, we cover both of those.
Perfect. Next question. We have a couple questions that are a little bit specific of, would I be a good fit for Point32 Health, or would how do I get in touch with you all to potentially show you a demo? So I guess, what is the best first step for a diverse business to make that intro to you all? Is it to fill out that online form? Is it to email someone directly? What's that best process for someone to say, like, hey, this is my service or my good. Am I a good fit for you all? Is this something you are looking for?
By all means, it's definitely that link, that form. That form is very comprehensive, and it gets into selecting not only where you are from a certification perspective, but it also provides the opportunity to add attachments, your slides, your PowerPoints, your brochures, and that will allow us to funnel it to the correct person from that point forward.
Perfect. And then will everyone who submits one of these online forms get some kind of response, whether it's a hi, yes, we're interested, or a no, thank you, not at this time? And what should the expected response time be for someone who is submitting this form?
That's a great question, and we always strive to respond back one way or another. We always try. We understand the passion, the interest, and that you folks are trying to run a business. We certainly understand and appreciate that. The unfortunate thing is, we're all moving a million miles an hour, so we will strive and aim to respond back to everyone. And please give us up to a couple of weeks, knowing that right after this meeting, if not already, we're probably already receiving a lot of requests. So it's not take us a while to funnel through. But let's just hypothetically say you were to fill out the form in a couple of weeks, you'd probably get a lot quicker response than you would in the next 48 hours.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I know you guys buy across a lot of categories. Is there a category that you say, hey, this is where we most need vendors, or where there's the most opportunity to onboard new vendors?
That's a very good question. And I wish I had an immediate answer right now. Unfortunately, I don't. That's a very good question. I'm sorry, I don't have a response.
No, that's okay. And then along those lines, I know you all mentioned that you have your was it your Supplier Diversity Summit coming up? If someone was interested in attending that, what's the best way for them to contact you about that?
John, do you have that answer, or Brendan? I'll defer to the two of you.
Yeah.
We can certainly get the answer if we don't have it immediately.
Yeah. No, I do. I actually will be coordinating that and getting the word out to folks in the coming weeks. We're in the deep throes of getting that together right now. I encourage folks who are interested to shoot me an email directly, and we will add you to our contact list for any updates about the event coming up itself.
Wonderful. I guess for Bill and for John, you've seen kind of the procurement world. What are some of the mistakes you see new vendors make that, had they fixed that one thing, they would have had a better chance in winning an RFP or a contract?
So great question. And it probably should have been something that I included early on. Patience is probably one of the big things. Patience. That it may not be a right opportunity now, but that continued interaction, checking in, the ongoing dialogue will more than likely prove beneficial in the long term. And it's trying to find that right cadence and that right level of communication so that you don't come in overbearing. Just checking in, reminder, this is what we've got going on, dropping those messages, those hints. And one of those times that message will be like perfect timing. You just hit, like, you couldn't have asked for a better time. You've got to be persistent. You've got to be, build that relationship with the procurement category manager and or the business, and just foster and develop that relationship. Where you go wrong is being that over-eager, continued weekly dialogue that will lead to ultimate failure, and or just one and done. Okay, just doing a dump and run. Here's all my marketing material, and then running away, hoping that something will pop up. That doesn't work either.
No, I've actually heard that a lot. Someone once said it's the quiet persistence. It's,
that's a great way. Yep.
Persistent, yep. But to your point, don't email me weekly.
Yeah, exactly. No one likes to receive those cold calls at home all the time. Put yourself in that type of situation.
Brandon, do we have a date for the summit in October?
Yes, October 10th.
Perfect. Someone asked, do you know how many diverse IT organizations does Point32 currently collaborate with?
We've got two huge ones right now, and the many of the other ones that we have would actually be more staffing. So they fall under the non-IT, but they come through and they support the IT organization. So we've got two very big IT firms right now. One that is just it will be speaking actually at the upcoming Diversity Summit. They are bringing $10 million annually or we're providing them $10 million annually going forward. So we have a number of service providers, once again, staffing, that support the IT organization, but they fall under the staff augmentation, non-IT umbrella. And we have many of those. And that's where most of those come in from an IT perspective.
For those of you who are joining us live, all of the links that were referenced in the presentation are currently in the chat box. So if you're looking for that submission, a link to that submission form, it is in the chat box so that you can just click on it right from here. And then for anyone watching the recording, a link of that will be in the notes section on our website under the Point32 Health presentation. We have a question. Are you currently working with vendors for telephonic interpretation? And are there things you'd like to improve on when considering future vendors? I guess, or maybe when looking at future vendors, what would you like these vendors to improve on? Which is a little bit what we covered earlier, but if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, so I'm reading the message now, the question, and telephonic, I need to understand a little bit more what telephonic interpretation means, but I certainly am familiar with Rosetta languages, so I'm going to assume that there's some type of translation going on in there. And I'm not familiar with a solution at this point in time. Certainly something I'd be interested in learning more about, and that certainly goes back to interesting timing because we are looking at revamping our telephone system. So once again, pretty good timing right there. As far as improve upon when considering future vendors, it is just working with a partner. We don't look at it as a vendor-customer relationship. It's more of a partner, and keeping that as a partner and trying to keep it professional, but also personable too. So developing that personal relationship, and that's always something that we're looking to do. It's a lot easier to partner when you have that type of relationship, less hostility, but making sure that we're holding everybody accountable.
Yeah, and I think just to slightly build off of that, Bill, I think, for something like that question, like that's a great opportunity to fill out the form, because as you can see, Bill and I are just 2 of 14 in the procurement department, so we can really get that form, get it to the right person, and see if there is an interest for somebody who may have that knowledge as well.
A question around and again, I know this
I
isn't
see
exactly
Bernard's
your
question regarding leveraging radio broadcasting.
Yes.
So that would definitely fall into marketing. Bernard, I can't speak to that, but that sounds like something fantastic, and that was something that I think would certainly be worthy to bring to the marketing organization, because that definitely helps with the outreach into those pockets throughout New England. So that would certainly be something that, if we haven't considered, might be something viable for the organization to consider.
Are you all qualifying the vendors based on size or based on revenue? And how would you decide? And how do you decide how to qualify them? I'm assuming this means whether you qualified as a small business or not.
Gotcha. So that qualification comes from Supplier.io. I believe I can find more information on that, and I'm happy to provide it. But that definition comes from them, and it's usually through. There's 2 governing bodies that register that Supplier.io is a database of, and I can also get the names of those, and we can find out.
And for those of you on the call, supplier.io is it's a platform that companies can use for their supplier diversity programs for data scrubbing and to help them organize their data so they can better understand their diverse spend. Is going through procurement the best way to engage you all, or do you suggest finding a sponsor within the organization to help make a diverse vendor's cause help
so
push them along?
That's a great question, and we strongly encourage folks to go through procurement. And the reason for that is we can put you in the right spot. I see it all the time through LinkedIn, people doing the shotgun blast, trying to reach out and try to use the LinkedIn network to find that right person. We know who those right people are. We have those partnerships. We work very closely with our IT organization. Specifically, my organization is in the office on the days when IT is in the office. We actually sit within the IT organization for that purpose, because we have that relationship with them. We roll up underneath our CFO. We should be sitting with our finance organization. However, in order to develop that strong relationship, we partner and we are embedded with the IT organization for that purpose.
I guess last question to send to you all. If you had, I know we talked a little bit about, right, like the communication side, but if you had one piece of advice to a diverse vendor who's looking to do business with you all, what would that piece of advice be to help them be successful? And whether with you or whether that be winning a contract with another organization?
I think it's the two P's, patience and persistence. I can give you a perfect example. That vendor that I spoke about, that's now we're spending $10 million annually, and we have a commitment for the next 4 years with this vendor. That vendor held on for 2, if not 3 years, with getting fed small renewals. And the right time came along where we're doing an RFP, slid them right in, and they've been just dominating going forward. So it took patience and persistence. Sorry about that, John.
No, I agree with you, Bill. I did have from like one of our other marketing category managers as well. He believes that, especially in the ad space, specifically, not over promising, being kind of realistic with, what you can offer. And if you can shoot for the stars, that's awesome too. But I believe he runs into that a lot, where there's a lot in general in the ad space that ends up happening. Such another piece of advice that would be relevant.
I think that's a good piece for everyone, right? Don't over promise and under deliver. Make sure your product is good, your services are tight, and you're delivering on what you're saying you can.
Absolutely.
And with that, I would like to thank everyone who joined us live today and spending their Thursday before Labor Day weekend with us. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, I would like to thank the Point32Health team for their presentation and for being willing to share this information. We hope you will join us on Thursday, October 3rd from 3 to 4 p.m. for our next Doing Business webinar, which will be with Mass General Brigham. Information on registration for that event will open in the coming weeks. To get updates on these events and others in the economic inclusion space, please sign up for our newsletter, and you can do that at bostonchamber.com.